Hi, welcome back to Christine's Home Affairs. In the previous video, I showed you how to make these really cute little unlined vinyl bags, and they were made out of a particular shape that I had, which was this. They were vinyl samples in an upholstery store, and I received a whole bunch of different colours. So I made this bag, and I've also shown you how to draft a pattern in this size, as well as something slightly bigger. A few people have asked me to do a lined version. I wasn't going to, but I have been asked to do a lined version. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to draft the pattern once again in a larger size again, and we're going to be lining this. But somebody pointed out to me that we don't actually need these curves in the bag, and you're right, we don't. I had my mind set on recreating exactly the same piece of fabric that it didn't even occur to me that the curves are useless. So forget the curves if you've watched the other video, just cut the diagonals nice and straight. But in this video, I will show you how to do that again. Today, we're going to make it fully lined, and this is the size that we're going to end up with. But we're also going to make it as a puppy poo pouch or even a child's nappy rubbish bag holder. So this is the original size that we've done. At the end of the video, I'll show you how to convert it so that you can use this as a poo bag holder. This one's fully lined as well, and it's got the little roll of bags inside there, and it's a perfect little dispenser for diapers, nappies, or doggy do bags. Stick around and I will show you how to make this lined without curved corners. Okay, instead of drafting a pattern for this one, we're going to design our pattern straight onto our stabiliser. What we're going to need for this project is a zip, a swivel clip. We'll be using the excess zipper tape for our tabs to go on the swivel clip. I have a piece of fabric for the outer bag, another piece for the lining, and then I have a piece of medium weight cotton interfacing. You can use fusible fleece if you like. It really doesn't matter what kind of stabilizer you use. It's up to you how much stability you want in your fabric. I don't have a particular size in mind, but I think that this is wide enough. The first thing I'm going to do is mark a line that is 8 inches or 20 centimeters from this edge here. So this is already a straight cut edge. I'll measure out 8 inches or 20 centimeters and mark that out along the interfacing. So you can just draw your lines to start with if you want to, or you can cut your fabric out straight away. And that's what I'll do here, at least to start with, just to get my first sides. I have 2 straight edges here. This one was also a straight edge already, so that measures 8 inches across. And with the top edge, I'm just going to measure that out at 11.5 inches, which is 29 centimeters. And I'm choosing this measurement because that's how wide my stabilizer was. So you can go and make this bag in whatever size you like. Next, we need to mark the angle where the zip's going. And these sorts of projects, you can really do any angle you like. It's just going to alter the way your pattern sits or your finished product sits. For this one, I'm going to measure down 2.5 inches, which is about 6.5 centimeters. From this bottom edge, I'll do the same. So you can have a lot of fun playing with different angles and sizes, whether it's this pattern or something else. And from that mark we've made, we're going to draw a diagonal line down to this point here, and you can just cut that out straight away if you want to. So that's one diagonal. Flip it around and we'll mark the same diagonal line on this side. That's the shape of our bag now. We can cut that out. Now, in the previous video, I had curves on here, but it was pointed out that we don't actually need the curves because these edges are all going to be sewn up, so we won't see them at all. So this was the original pattern that I had. It was a piece of vinyl that had the curved edges. I've gone and basically done exactly the same thing, put the curves in and those curves were really only for display purposes when hanging the vinyl swatches. So we don't need to curve our points, but we do need to remember which is the long edge and the short edge of the fabric. So when I take this away, it's this edge here and this one here that is going to have the zip. And it might be fun just to play around with the other side as well, but I'll leave that for you guys. Now that we've got this, we're going to iron that straight onto the back of our outer fabric, and once we've done that we can cut it out. So I'll go and fuse those pieces together and be right back. Alright, the interfacing's been ironed to the back of the outer fabric. I've also pressed my lining fabric, and we can cut these out at the same time. With the right sides of the fabric facing, we can cut out along the edge of the stabilizer. If you're using a stabilizer that is thicker or is difficult to sew, then what I would do is use the stabilizer as my template and cut the fabric out 1/4 of an inch bigger all the way around, and that will take into account the seam allowances and it will make it easier to sew together. But we don't need that for this one. And then I've gone and cut off those marks I've made. This is my short edge. That's where I want my zip to go. You want your zip to be about 2 inches longer than the length that you have across here. Place the zipper faced down over the top of your fabric, and where the opening is here, we want the least amount sticking out and about 2 inches at this end. Place this piece directly over the top and we can clip those edges together. With the stabilized fabric faced up, we're going to go along and stitch the zip in place. Once you've done that, open it out and we'll top stitch. And back stitch at the beginning and the end. Press the 2 pieces of fabric away from the zip and bring the lining to the back, and then we can top stitch all the way across. Next, we're going to place this end of the fabric up to the zip, and it's a little bit awkward to do that because of the shape of the fabric. Bring your fabric around and line up the straight edge of your fabric with the straight edge on the other side, and then we can make a little nick in the zipper tape just along the top edge of the fabric, and you can do that on this side as well. We've got a little notch marked out over there. Open the zip out all the way and then grab the outer piece and find that notch that you've made along here and line that up with the straight edge along here and clip those edges together. And we're going to sew just the outer fabric to the zip. We won't be doing the lining just yet. So that side has been sewn in place. We're not top stitching just yet. We'll bring the lining up and place that over the top just as you would in a normal bag. We're just doing this in 2 separate stages today. And once again, we're going to sew the lining piece and the other 2 layers together. We're not going to sew all the way across though. Let's come around to this side so that we can see. From the top edge, I'm going to measure 6 centimetres or 2.5 inches, and I'll do the same on this side as well. We're going to sew from the outside edge in toward the centre, finish with a back stitch, start again here with a back stitch and stitch to the outside edge. This will leave an opening in the lining for you to turn your bag through later. We're going to be stitching right over that row of stitching that we've already done. So where I've made my marking, I'm going to stop there, back stitch, Move on up and start with a back stitch here again. And continue to the end. And that has left a little opening in the middle. Turn this the right way out, and you want to press your seams so that they sit nice and flat against the zip. On the lining side, you want to press this down really well, and then this fold here will be pressed in place as well, although we're not stitching just yet. Come back around to the front, and where the opening is in the lining here, I'm just going to put a pin in the fabric and at the other end of the opening, and we're going to top stitch, but we're not going to stitch in this area. So we'll sew up to the pin and back stitch, and we'll start where the pin is here with a back stitch and continue to the end. So there's our little opening here. That's the amount of space that we have to turn our bag the right way out later. Top stitching along here and left that free. Turn this inside out. And we can close the zip at the moment. We want to bring this corner and this corner together, and then place the layers of fabric together until you find the centre. Notch out a bit there. Do the same on this side. And we'll do the same for the lining. Ideally, before you actually sew anything together, this is the end that's got the zip in place. Bring the long edges together, find the centre, and notch your fabric out here. So that will be easier to do before you put your zip in place. Now at this end here where we've got the opening of the zip, we need to open this up. And all we need to do is sew across the teeth to hold that closed. I'll quickly go and do that now. So that's the zipper tape stitched together on the end there within the seam allowance, and that means the slider isn't going to come off. We can now open our zip most of the way, but not all the way. At this end here where we've got the long tail, find this notch, line that up with the centre of your zip, clip those edges together, flip it over, line up the lining as well, and line up those layers, and we can trim off that excess zipper tape, clip that together at the bottom, and then this one here will separate the teeth. Pull that apart, trim this back to about 2 inches, grab your swivel clip, place that over the end, and then bring the edges together. So I have the zipper teeth faced outward, and what I'm going to do, you don't need to sew this together if you don't want to. It can just slide straight into the end of your bag. On the previous video I was asked how to get around these teeth shifting when you actually sew it into your bag. Because there's so much bulk, your tab ends up becoming misaligned, somewhat like this. It happens to me all the time as well, but what I did find the other day was using a zipper foot makes the job a lot easier. So let's go over to the machine and I'll show you what I do to help minimize the amount of movement in the tab. I have the teeth on my left. It doesn't matter whether it's left or right, but this is just what I'm doing for this one. I'm placing my zipper foot really close to the edge where the teeth are, and it's exactly the same as when I put my zips in as well. So if you can move your needle position as close to this edge as possible, then there's going to be less movement along here. I'll just stitch straight up a few stitches And hopefully you can see that that's all there is to it. So it has shifted slightly, but not as much as it normally would if I'd left it alone. So that'll make it easier to stitch into the end of your bag. So back to the bag, we've got this end secured. At this end we're going to do the same. Fold the fabric open and line up the notch with the centre of your zip. Turn that around, and this is where your fabric becomes a little bit twisted. But we're all a bit twisted in our own way, aren't we? Line up that notch with your zipper tape. Spread that out. This is where I'm doubting myself as well, hoping that it's going to turn out. We'll continue on. Grab our little slider with the zipper tape on it. That's as good as I'm going to get it. I'll place that inside the bag in between the layers of the outer fabric, not the lining fabric. And because I'm going to be sewing from this side down, it's better if I have my zipper teeth facing away from the direction I'm going. So I'll have my zipper teeth to the right. That way when I'm sewing, the stitches will grab the flat side of my zip first and will also help keep those layers nice and flat. So that's on the inside there. Clip that together. We can sew straight across here and straight across here. 1/4 inch seam allowance for this one will be fine. Back stitch here. Over the zipper teeth I've triple stitched, and then we'll go around to the other side and just make sure that the lining fabric is sitting nice and flat underneath, and double check that that little metal ring isn't in the sewing area, as well as the metal bars on your zipper tape. Okay, there's not much left to do. We've just got to trim our corners, cut off the excess zipper tape here. There are no seams open at the bottom for us to turn through, but we do have that opening in the zip. So let's find that. You can open the zip out and then turn it the right way out. Poke out all of your corners. And once everything's tidied up, let's go to the zip here. And this folded edge, we want to line that up with the stitching line that we've got from the previous row of stitching when we installed the zip. Secure those edges together, and we're going to continue the top stitching whilst we're sewing with the top layer faced up. So I've got the end of my stitching here. I'm going to drop the needle down in a stitch along here and then continue on until I meet up with the other end here, and then the bag is finished. And when I get to the other side, I can back stitch, and we're done. So there is the finished row of top stitching along here. We can close up our bag, and there we have it. A lined version of these pyramid style bags. And this is the miniature version, also fully lined. One of the other suggestions that we had for this was the puppy poo pouches. So if we put a little grommet in here or an eyelet, we can feed our toileting bags through that. Not just for puppies, for the little plastic diaper bags as well, or nappy bags. So that's what we're going to do with this one, because I think this is a little bit big for those, although that might be handy for a child's nappy waste bag. So what we're going to do is open this out, and where the bag sits comfortably is where we're going to put the hole. I think this will sit better with this zipper end sitting flat. So if we look at the bottom there, around the centre here is where we're going to put a hole for our eyelet. I think that's pretty well centred. So with that mark made there, I'm going to open this up, flatten out the fabric on the inside, find where I've made that mark, and I'll just grab my awl and poke a hole through the layers, being careful not to poke my fingers, it's quite sharp, and I'll come up on this side. So I've marked a position for the hole I need to punch. I have a brass plate here. I do know that brass will blunt my blades. It's the best way to get a good hole cut, and Chris can go and sharpen these for me anyway. So I will centre my punch over the centre of the bag, and all I need to do is punch a hole. Then I can grab my grommet tool, and I can never remember which way these go. This one, the cap, I'll slide into the bottom of the gadget. I'll pop that through the outer fabric to the inside. That'll sit just like that, and that will sit over the tool. And then this bit here will sit over the top, and I'll press that together, holding the bag open. And there we have the eyelet for our little toileting bags. So we can just grab one of these rolls, pop that inside the bag, feed it through the eyelet, and there we have our little poo bag holders. And you can make a much larger one as well for a nursery bag if you need to. Do you know, this is really cute in this shape. When I was making these up yesterday, I did actually consider making them as poo bags because I really like the shape and I think they'd be nice hanging from a dog lead. So I reckon I'm going to go and cut up some more pieces of vinyl and have these little doggy do bags unlined as well. So that's something that I'm going to go ahead and do, but I'm going to sell all my old ones first. And there's the other bag that we've done in this video. So quilting cotton, fully lined, just using a little piece of stabilizer. This one here is vinyl fabric without any stabilizer because it didn't need it, but that has also been fully lined as well. The construction technique is exactly the same, and to put the eyelet or the grommet in is very simple. Once you've got the lining done, you just punch a hole in it from the inside. As a lined version, I'd sell them for about $15 each, and the unlined versions I'm selling for $10 each. So there you have it, fully lined versions. If you like the unlined version better, I'll put a link in the description box below. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I shall catch you next time. Bye for now.